What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's CJ. In today's video, we're going to be checking out PrizePicks and their NBA player props tonight. I've got points, assists, rebounds, and three-point props for us to talk about, and hopefully we get back on track after what was a disastrous night last night, thanks in large part to a couple of unsuspecting blowouts. Although the game totals and the spreads were good for yesterday's games, they ended up pretty much being runaways both games. The Miami Heat just looked flat last night. They had no chance to hang with the Milwaukee Bucks. It was never really competitive throughout. The other game, the Portland Trail Blazers did kind of make a little bit of a push, a little bit of a fight, push the Denver Nuggets, but as the game went into the later stages, it just became a total blowout as well. So hopefully we get back on track, and the games tonight are a lot better for us in terms of DFS and sports betting purposes. If this is your first time on the channel, thank you so much for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are on our way to 1,300 subscribers. It would be amazing if we got it done by the end of the month, by the 1st of June. If we hit 1,300 subscribers, I would be a very happy individual. Thank you so much for your continued support. And last night, I think we absolutely destroyed the likes. I believe we went over 70 likes, which hasn't been done in a really long time. I think that might have been a single video record, potentially. So I'm going to crank things up today on the video likes. We're going to go to 44.5. That's the goal. I'm going to take the over, of course, because if you guys can do 70, I know 45 or more likes is definitely within the realm of possibilities here. So thank you so much for all those likes. Now, if you haven't ever played on PrizePicks before, now is a great time because they're going to do a 100% instant deposit match on your first deposit. So you see the banner down at the bottom of the video here. Use promo code Curry and you'll get that 100% instant deposit match on your first deposit. So if you put in $100, they'll match it and give you $100. You'll start things off with $200 to play with, which should be plenty of money to carry you throughout the NBA playoffs. I'll also leave a link down in the description of the video for the promo link for PrizePicks, the Discord link if you want to join the Discord community, and the Patreon link if you want even more content than what I can provide you in a 30-minute video. Patreon is a good thing to join. Help support me as a creator, help support everything that we're doing here. So with all of that stuff out of the way, let's start talking some of these props. Before we get into that, though, let's look at the game totals real quick. We've got 227.5 points in this Boston at Brooklyn game, a 9.5 point spread, guys. So I'm going to tell you right now, this is one that will blow out. I mean, it looks like it's going to blow out according to the Vegas lines makers. Now, yesterday, they thought that the games were going to stay close, and of course, that did not happen. So things are subject to change. So just be very careful here when playing any overs from this game, especially if you take any guys that have really lofty projections or expectations. You might need to quell those a little bit here with a huge total, or a huge spread on the board, I should say. Next game we're going to talk about is the Los Angeles Lakers at the Phoenix Suns, 210 implied points. So this one is looking like a very low scoring game, maybe a game that you want to target more unders from rather than overs, because 210 points is just not a very large total here. You know me, I like totals of 230, 240 points. Those are the types of games where I like to target overs on. In this particular situation, with just 210 points on the board, that's not a whole lot. So it doesn't get me very excited to play a ton of overs from this game. You're looking at a 1.5 point spread, so all the stars in this game should play a full run of minutes here. And finally, the last game, 216 implied point total. You got the Dallas Mavericks at the Los Angeles Clippers tonight, one of the late games. It's a 7.5 point spread here for the Los Angeles Clippers. So this is another game where a potential blowout is on the horizon. So be very careful here. Don't have a ton of points between these two teams, and it's looking like a pretty large spread here. So I hope it doesn't blow out. I really don't like playing any type of DFS or sports betting or any of that stuff when there are blowouts across the board. It just absolutely sucks. So let's hope for closer games tonight. Now, let's get into some of these props. The first one I want to talk about is Joe Harris. He's at 11.5 points, taking on the Boston Celtics. This game tips off at 7:40 p.m. It's the earliest game out of the 3 games on today's NBA slate. Now, Harris is at 11.5 points, so let's take a look at his projections over here on NumberFire. NumberFire, by the way, completely free site. Free points, rebounds, assist projections, and they have fantasy points projections if that's your preferred way to play. So we're going to type in Joe Harris's name. And you can see that tonight they've got him projected at 12 points. Now 12 points, obviously more than 11.5, indicating that maybe we should be thinking about taking the over on Joe Harris tonight. But we're going to move things over to NBA.com. Of course, another free site here for you to do your own research if you have time. If you don't, well, then that's where the Patreon community can definitely help you out. I do a ton of more research than I do in these videos, put them all in a spreadsheet for you, upload them to Patreon for you guys to look at and help you make some better decisions. His scoring average for the season, 14.1 points per game. Obviously, that's quite a bit higher than 11.5, but we also have to keep in mind that the Brooklyn Nets have kind of been a modular team. And what I mean by that is a lot of faces in and out of the lineup. Big faces like Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, James Harden, even Blake Griffin, who has been introduced to the team. Not really an offensive impact player, but still a noteworthy name. So what I'm trying to say is that this scoring average of 14.1 points per game is probably likely to go down because we've got all three of the big three healthy and in the lineup. So let's go ahead and take a look at his last couple of games here. And we actually just have one game to look at, which was his last game against the Boston Celtics. Now, in that game, he did play a pretty good amount of minutes, over 37 minutes. He scored 10 points. And 10 points obviously would not get it done if we're looking to take the over here tonight. So let's reset these filters and take a look and see how he's performed against Boston this season. We'll click run and get a little report back. You can see that he's faced Boston 3 times this season, 30.7 minutes per game, 13.7 points per game. But again, got to keep in mind that not all of the big three have been healthy all at the same time here with Joe Harris in the lineup. So I do expect his scoring average to go down from where it was from the season at 14.1 and where it was from these previous matchups against the Boston Celtics at 13.7. Maybe the game does blow out. Maybe Joe Harris gets a little bit of extra run while the Stars see the bench early. It's kind of tough to tell. Anyway, let's move ahead here and look at Joe Harris in this points category. So we type his name in, and we've got him at 11.5 points across 3 different books. We've got him as a minus 122 for the over, a minus 120 for the over, and a minus 128 on the over, the strongest odds being over on BetMGM. So all 3 sites, people are taking the over there. We got a projection tonight with a slight over on this 11.5 point projection, plus season averages and the 3-game averages against Boston are both above 11.5. But again, caution, because that was with probably Kevin Durant or Kyrie or James Harden out of the lineup. So Joe Harris naturally would get a boost in a situation like that. So this one's going to be a little bit tricky, but I would probably lean toward taking the over just based on the projections and the Vegas lines. Of course, Joe Harris, a 3-point marksman. So he hits, 2 or 3 3-pointers, he's right there in the neck of the woods of that 11 or 12 point area. So I think it's definitely possible that he could get it done. All right, so with him out of the way, we're going to talk another guy here, not a superstar by any means, but Dennis Schroder, a big piece of the Los Angeles Lakers. But again, this is another situation where the Lakers are completely healthy across the board. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Andre Drummond. So they got a lot of different pieces, and there's just one basketball. So I'm thinking Dennis Schroder could possibly be left with the crumbs tonight against the Phoenix Suns. This game does tip off at 10:10 p.m. So let's take a look at Dennis Schroder over on NumberFire and see where they have him projected in terms of points tonight. So we type in Dennis, and we've got a points projection of 12.8 points. Now, 12.8, even if we round up to 13, would indicate that the under is a good way to go here on 13.5 points. So let's just do our research together, shall we? And we will take a look and see if the under makes sense here. We'll open up his player card on NBA.com. Now you can see for the season, 15.4 points per game, but same situation applies to Schroder as it does Joe Harris. His points per game average is probably a little bit inflated due to the likes of Anthony Davis missing a lot of time, LeBron James missing a lot of time. Guys like Dennis Schroder, Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell were thrust into larger roles while those superstars were out of the lineup. So I do expect Dennis Schroder's scoring average to be on the downturn in more recent games here. So let's go ahead and take a look at his last game against the Phoenix Suns and see how well he was able to score. We've got a 2-game sample size, 27.6 minutes played in those games, 13 points per game, which is less than 13.5, looking like a good underplay in this situation. We're going to reset these filters. We're going to change his opponent to just the Phoenix Suns and see how well he's done against them in his previous matchups. All right, so he's faced them 2 times, played 34 minutes in those games, and again, his scoring average was inflated, 19.5 points, likely because LeBron or AD were out of the lineup. So this sample size should probably mostly be ignored and is not to be expected tonight. I don't expect him to get 19 or 20 points with the Lakers completely healthy like they are now. So we go back to RotoWire. We type in Dennis Schroder's name. We've got him at 13.5 across the board here. Not seeing any action really here. He's even at -113 under, -113 over. Now over here, he's a -126 under, which is a good sign for us if we are looking to take the under. But contrary to that, he is a -118 over on this last sports book here, just a slight over. And we should point out that he's also a -115 under. So not a super strong position being taken there over on BetMGM. So as you can see, guys, we've got a projection tonight that puts him under 13.5 points. So far in this series, he is averaging less than 13.5 points at 13. So it's close, but it is still an under. And then tonight we've got him on one of the sports books going under 13.5 points. So I'm going to probably stick with it, take the under on Dennis Schroder here. All right, the next 3 props we're going to talk about are all assist props. So we've talked points, we're going to get into some assists, and then we'll get into rebounds and 3-point props after we wrap that up. So first guy I want to talk about in the assist category is Evan Fournier, my former Magic friend. 2.5 assists. He's taking on the Brooklyn Nets tonight. And I think that's a little bit too low. I think this is a situation here for Evan Fournier where he could definitely get 3 assists in this matchup. So let's type in Evan Fournier's name. We click the assist column, type in Fournier. There's only one Evan Fournier. And for the record, please do never Google his name. Do not Google Fournier. You will not like the results. You have been warned. Just saying. I'm just saying. If you don't know, well, now you know. His assist projection today is 3.6. Now, 3.6 obviously is more than 2.5, implying that we should be looking to take the over here. 3 or more assists would get us paid. So let's take a look at Fournier over on NBA.com. I cannot spell. There we go. Open up his player card here for the season. 3.4 assists per game. Now, that's obviously higher than 2.5, but we have to remember that he was mostly with the Orlando Magic, and these stats here for the season could be a little bit skewed. So let's go back here and take a look at some of his more recent games. So we changed the season segment and we click run. You can get it on NBA.com. They got filters for everything you could possibly imagine. Now we look at his last 5 games here in which he's appeared in 4, playing 32.5 minutes. His scoring average is pretty nice at 20.8, but we're here to look at assists, and his assist number is 5.8 assists. So 5.8 more than 2.5. So let's click reset here, and we're going to change the opponent to the Brooklyn Nets. Click run it and see how well he's played against the Nets this season. He's faced them 3 times, playing about 28 minutes per game, and in that time span, averaging 3.3 assists. So again, the over is looking like a good way to go here. I'm sticking with it so far. Nothing's knocking me off course just yet. We're going to finish things off by going back to RotoWire. We're going to type in Fournier's name under the assist category, and we've got him at 2.5 dimes across the board here. Now we're seeing some fantastic action on the over, -159. Gotta love that. Hard to ignore that. -134 on the over, and last but not least, a -133 on the over. So I'm seeing some very strong positions being taken on the over on this 2.5 assist prop for Evan Fournier. I gotta say, I love what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing some good averages for Evan Fournier to suggest that he could go over 2.5 assists. And last but not least, his projections tonight imply that he should have at least 3 assists or more in this one. So liking this one a lot. This looks like a very strong play. I'm going to stick with the over on Evan Fournier and these 2.5 assists based on the research we have done together. All right, the next guy I want to talk about is Devin Booker. This is another situation where he could definitely go over here. He's got some pretty good odds from what I saw earlier. So let's take a look and see if anything has changed with that. We're going to type in Devin Booker's name, and you can see that he is projected at 4.6 assists. So between 4 assists and 5 assists, 4.6 leans more toward the 5, so this is a good situation here for us to potentially target the over. Let's do some research though and see if anything knocks us off of that, makes us flip-flop or fade this pick. We open up a player card here for Devin Booker. You can see his assist average for the season, 4.3. Now 4.3, obviously a little bit less than 4.5, but still falls in between that spectrum, that range of 4 to 5 assists. So we'll open up his more recent game logs and see how well he's done. Run that 5-game report, and you can see that he has obviously faced the Lakers just one time in this series. Played over 45 minutes as that game did go into overtime. Now in that game, 8 assists. He had a monster game across the board, 34.7 rebounds and 8 assists. So 8 assists would obviously get the job done rather at 4.5 assists. We're going to click reset. We're going to change his opponent to just the Los Angeles Lakers and see how he's done in previous matchups against them this season. He's faced him 3 times, played about 31 minutes in those games. His assist numbers, 3.7, indicating that he came up a bit short here against the Lakers in their 3 previous matchups. So a little bit of a knock on going over Devin Booker and these 3.5 assists. Now last but not least, we're heading back to RotoWire. We're going to type in Booker's name and see what kind of results we get here across the various sports books. We got him at 4.5 assists here, and he's a minus 134 for the over. Love to see that. That's looking very strong. Even better though, minus 142 for the over. And then last but not least, a minus 128 for the over. So all 3 books, we're seeing some pretty strong juice on the over for Devin Booker and these 4.5 assists. Gotta love that. Plus, we've got a projection that is slightly higher than 4.5 at 4.6 assists here. So yeah, I think if I'm leaning toward either way, it's probably going to be on the over. Yeah, we'll go with it. We're going to go with the over on this one. It's a little cloudy, but I'm going to stick with the over on this one. All right, and the last assist prop I want to talk about is Luka Doncic, who had a fantastic game against the Los Angeles Clippers in that first game. This dude is just a straight up stud. And in this particular matchup, in this particular game, with the totals being what they are and the spreads being what they are, I'm looking to take the under here, as this one does look like it has a potential to be a blowout. So this game tips off at 10:40 p.m. here on the East Coast. Let's go do some homework here on Luka Doncic. We'll type his name into number fire. We've got him at 8.4 assists, indicating that the under is the way to go here. Even if we were feeling generous, we wanted to round up and call it 9 assists. Well, that's obviously less than 9.5. So let's move over to NBA.com. We'll do a little search here for Luka. There's actually 2 Lukas in the league now. I thought there was only 1 Luka. Well, in my heart, there's only 1 Luka, and that's Luka Doncic. Now, for the season, he's averaged 8.6 assists per game, which is lower than 9.5 assists. So the under still looking like it is definitely in play here, but let's get into some of his more recent games. We'll run this little report and see what kind of results we get here. So we got that one game against the Los Angeles Clippers. He played almost 41 minutes in that game, and he had 11 assists to go along with 10 rebounds and 31 points. Him and Devin Booker both had fantastic performances in their playoff debuts this season. So, that is a knock here against Luka Doncic. Let's go ahead and run a report against the Los Angeles Clippers and take a look at how he's done against them throughout the course of the season. All right. We've got 3 previous games. He's played over 35 minutes per game, and he has averaged 11 assists in those previous matchups. So again, this one's looking a little bit murky for me. I came in thinking maybe the under was the way to go. We've got projections that suggest we should go under. We've got averages, though, that say that the over is potentially the way to go. So let's see if maybe we can break this tie. We can shake things up a little bit here and get a clearer picture on how we should handle Luka Doncic and these 9.5 assists. So across the industry, he's at 9.5 assists. You can see this first book here has him as a even minus 113 under and a minus 113 over. Not really seeing any juice, any action one way or the other there. Now over here, we've got him at 9.5, minus 118 on the under, but a minus 102 on the over. So a slight favorite to go under on that one. And last but not least, much stronger odds on the under here, minus 133. And that's the one that kind of caught my eye. So it's going to be a tough one here, guys. This one's going to be a difficult one, but if we go back to the game totals and the spread, low total game, 216 points, and a 7.5 point spread. So if Vegas is right, which they were wrong last night on the two games we had in last night's slate, but if Vegas is right, this game has blowout potential written all over it. So I'm going to stick with it and just trust. I know it's hard, guys, but I'm going to trust that a superstar like Luka Doncic goes under 9.5 assists tonight. Tough call, though. Tough call. Definitely not an easy prop. All right, so the next one we have is a rebound prop. Now, this one's going to involve a fading star, we'll say. Blake Griffin, once one of the baddest men in the league, once one of the baddest dunkers in the league, is now just a role player on this Brooklyn Nets squad. And at 4.5 rebounds, it's crazy to say, but I'm looking to take the under. This guy used to pull down 10 or more boards like it was nothing. But today is a different day. Blake Griffin is not the player that he once was. So in this case, I think the under is the way to go. Let's type in his name, though. Let's look at his projection on rebounds. 4.2 boards. Obviously puts him closer to 4 boards than it does 5. So he's projected to go for less than 4.5, according to NumberFire. Let's go take a look at how well Blake Griffin's been pulling down rebounds this season. For the season, 4.9 rebounds per game puts him right there at the cusp of reaching 5 boards, which would be absolutely heartbreaking if we did take the under and he pulled down 5 rebounds. So a little bit of a knock against going under here, but let's look at his more recent games because that'll be a more fair sample. So we run the report, last 5 games, and it pulls up his one previous game against this Boston Celtics team. His last game that he participated in, he played just 20 minutes in that game, put up just 1 point, terrible, and he pulled down 3 rebounds. Like I said, this guy is pretty much a role player now on this Brooklyn Nets squad, playing alongside of KD and the Beard and Kyrie, so he's not asked to do a whole lot out there. I don't know if he's just playing decoy, role player. I don't know what his role is, really. But he's not scoring, and he's not really rebounding. So the under on his rebounds still looking like a good way to go. Let's change his opponent to the Boston Celtics and run this report again and see what happens. All right, he's faced Boston 3 different times this season, 29.2 minutes per game. That would be a boost versus how many minutes he got in the last game, which was just 20 minutes. Now, his rebounds during that time, 4 boards. 4 boards are less than 4.5 boards. So again, guys, the under is still looking like a confident way to go here. Let's click the rebound category. We'll type in Griffin's name. And we've got him at 4.5 boards across the industry. I'm seeing some very good odds on the under here. -148, -134, and a -139. Just click the under, hope for the best. It looks like a super strong play, probably one of my standout plays from today's video based on all the evidence that I'm seeing across the board here on Mr. BG Blake Griffin. All right, we're going to cap this video off with a couple of 3-point props. We've got one guy who I took the under on in his first game against the Brooklyn Nets, and it ended up working out for me. And I'm hoping to go back to the well again on Jason Tatum under 3.5 3-pointers made. Let's see if that is a solid play. We're going to go back to NBA.com and type in Tatum's name. Let's open up his season stats here and take a look at how well he's been shooting it from beyond the arc. Now, for the season, he attempted 7.6 3-pointers per game, making just 2.9, which puts him under 3 3-point makes. Now, if we take the under on this 3.5 3-point prop, we've got to hope that he shoots and makes 3 or less 3-pointers in this particular situation. So let's change the filters from all games to his last 1 or 2 or however many they're going to give us. The reporting is kind of weird here. All right, so it looks at his last 4 games, and you can see that in his last 4 games, he's attempting 7.8 threes per game, making just 3 of them, which is good for 38.7%. So 3 is less than 3.5, and if he makes 3 tonight and we take the under, we make money. Let's reset these filters, change this to the Brooklyn Nets, run this report again. and he's faced the Nets 3 times this season. In those matchups, 8.3 3-point attempts per game, so that's a little bit higher than where he was at for his season averages, and he's made 3.7 makes in those matchups. So that is a little bit higher than 3.5, indicating that he's closer to making 4 per game than he is 3. But hey, that's just a 3-game sample size. I don't put too much weight into that. I would look at the bigger sample size against, the season sample size, basically. So I'm expecting him to go under again. Nothing's really knocking me off course here from taking this under. Let's go check out RotoWire real quick. We'll look at the various sports books. Now, across the board here, we've got him at 3.5 3-point makes. Look at this, guys. Minus 159 on the under. How do you say no to that? I won't be saying no. I'm going to be locking that in. Minus 130 on the under and a minus 133 on the under. 3 sports books suggesting that Jason Tatum will make just 3 3-pointers or less in this particular matchup. No, I'm not throwing up gang signs. The only gang I represent is Out of Bounds, the #1 PrizePicks community in the entire world. Anyway, I'm taking the under on Jason Tatum's 3.5 3-point makes, and I think you should too. Moving on to the last prop of today's video, we've got THJ, Tim Hardaway Jr. at 2.5 3-point makes. Now, based on the limited research I did prior to hitting record on today's video, the over looked like the way to go on Tim Hardaway Jr. and these 2.5 3-point props. 3-point makes? 3-point props? 3-point make props? So let's type in Tim Hardaway's name here and look into how many threes he's made per game this season. So while I'm clicking stuff, I'm going to take a swig of water because, man, I've been talking a lot. All right, let's clear this playoff filter. For the season, he has attempted 7.6 3-pointers per game, making 3. So that puts him slightly over this 2.5 3-point prop. So liking the way that's looking. He does jack up a lot of 3-pointers, 7 to 8 threes per game on average. So I'm liking the way that's looking. Now let's move this to his last 5 games here. You can see that his last 5 games, he has attempted 7.6 threes, making 3.2. Again, the over is looking like it's still in play here. 3 or more 3-pointers made. Let's reset these filters. Let's take a look at his matchups against the Clippers this season and see how well he has done in previous meetings. He's faced them 3 times, and in those 3 meetings, he's attempted 8 3-pointers per game against them, making 4, good for 50%. So dudettes, whoever's out there watching, I like this over on 2.5 3-point makes on Tim Hardaway Jr. I don't see any reason why we should be fading or taking the under here. Let's finish things off here on RotoWire and see what happens. We got him at 2.5 3-point makes across the board here. Minus 139 on the over, very nice. Minus 122 on the over, also very nice. And then the final site here, we're kind of even. We're split. Minus 115 over, minus 115 on the under. So out of the 3 sports books that we referenced, 2 of them favor the over. We've got a lot of averages here that seem to indicate that 3 to 4 3-point makes should be in the cards here tonight for Tim Hardaway Jr. The only concern is the fact that this game has the potential to blow out. But otherwise, I love this prop, and I think I'm going to stick to the over on Tim Hardaway Jr. So that's going to do it for today's prop video. What do you guys think? Is there any props that are standing out to you? Leave a comment down in the comment section below. Maybe there's a prop that I did not talk about that you're absolutely loving and that you're hot on. Leave it down in the comments section below. If you made it this far to the video, thank you so much for watching. Hit subscribe, make sure notifications turn on, and if this video helped you out, leave a thumbs up for me. It helps me out quite a bit too. So this is CJ, and until the next video, guys, good luck tonight. Let's try and make some money over on PrizePicks, all right? Peace out.